Welcome back, and thanks for joining us here on Co-Work Radio. I'm Catherine Raymock.
And I'm Jane Walker-Wood.
And we are here with venture capitalist, UCSB professor, business author, John Greathouse. And by the way, before we say hello to John, make sure you send your questions to AskJohn at coworkradio.com. How you doing, John?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Hot in Santa Barbara.
Hey, our question today is from Talinda. Beautiful name, by the way. Talinda has been working on her business for the last year or so. She's getting ready to hire either a couple marketers or possibly even a larger marketing team. So it sounds like quite a large business. But then someone recently told her that she should hire growth hackers, and she's confused as to what that is. And frankly, so am I. She's looked it up and she's still confused.
I am too. I've never heard that term. No, I'm kidding. No, it's no wonder that Talinda is confused. It's I think the word or the term has kind of lost its meaning. Its roots it goes back to when you develop software. If you're making a shortcut in the code, that's called a hack. It's not anything new. And I told my UCSB students, I've given them some examples from the past because they're the same way. They're like, hey, I want a growth hack. And it's like, well, all you're doing, if you want to put it in different terms, is it's just a clever way to jumpstart your business, a clever way to get an edge on your competitors. I'll give you an example from the 1960s. So one of my favorites actually was this guy named Anthony Athanas. He left home at 13 years old. He never went to high school or college. Ended up creating the most profitable restaurant in America during the 1960s. It was called Anthony's Pier 4 in Boston, right? And the way he did it a bunch of different ways. Obviously, he was a great restaurateur, but I'll give you an example of a growth hack that he used. What do a lot of people do when they get in a cab, and now it's an Uber, in a new city? I mean, they'll ask common questions. One common question is, where should I eat? Okay, so all these cab drivers are driving all these people all over Boston getting that question, and Anthony, because he was a man of the people, he knew they were getting that question. So he treated cab drivers with respect and dignity, gave them free food. He even invited them. So the grand opening of this new important restaurant in Boston was attended by cab drivers. So they're all sitting at banquet tables. They never get this kind of treatment, right? And what he would do is he offered them a free coffee year-round. So you can imagine how cold it gets in Boston. And it was a great way to do it because people would say, where should I eat? He's like, oh, you got to go to Pier 4. They drop their fare off, and then they go hang out and get some coffee. So it just was a great way for everybody to win. The cab drivers got some free food. It was a good restaurant, so the patrons got good food, had a good meal, and Anthony had a great business, and he did it for decades.
Do you think that some of the most brilliant ideas are just simply simple?
Yes.
I mean,
and they're often.
How is that hacking, though?
It's hacking in the sense that everyone else was spending money on newspaper ads and buying radio time. Not that radio time's not a bad thing, but they were doing the conventional things.
So it's hacking like a shortcut?
A shortcut, and it's often an unconventional, less obvious, clever way of getting to the same end, or even getting a little further to that end.
Something a marketing company wouldn't necessarily do,
right? Because if they're a paint by numbers kind of marketing company, they're like, oh, here's the playbook. Well, forget the playbook. I'm looking for something that's not in the playbook yet. That's what a growth hacker would do. Something that hasn't been done.
So most entrepreneurs are hackers.
By definition.
By definition.
I really believe that, yeah. And it just, again, it's come in vogue in the last few years, but it's just describing something that's been around forever.
Well, it does sort of beg the question, though, when you're looking at marketing whatever business idea you have, are you trying to look long-term and short-term at the same time? Because the agency that I would traditionally think of is more long-term planning.
Right.
The hacking you described is, let's do this short-term. Isn't a combo the best?
I don't know that you can do a combo in the early stages, because oftentimes you're just trying to survive. Restaurant may not be the best example of that, but an early stage startup, I don't think they have the luxury of thinking very long term at the beginning. So they often don't need a PR firm or a marketing firm. They just need to start driving some business, use those customer dollars to then go out and maybe pay an expert down the road. But it's hard at the beginning to try to do both.
So as I'm understanding it, if I'm doing hacking, I'm going to try a bunch of different things and see what works.
Iterate.
And then stick with what works.
Yes.
Versus a traditional marketing company, I'm going to hire someone who's going to have an overall strategic plan.
Right. And that has its time and place as well. But you hit it on the head. It's all about testing and iterating feedback and not being afraid to say that didn't work. Like, that seemed like a great idea at 3 a.m, but it's not, and I'm just going to move on. So not having this dogmatic ownership on the idea, just throwing it out there, trying it, and moving on.
But now with this modern day hacking, to get back to Linda's question, that's when somebody goes to a group who over, say, 36 hours is going to discuss all these different ideas that you could try and then throw that one out, try that one, throw that one out.
You could do that. I think, are you thinking more of a hackathon, like from a software development standpoint, or are you talking about like people that are sitting around talking about marketing ideas?
I thought there were like these growth hacker companies where they go through idea after idea.
I think you're right. I've never employed them. But I would expect that is part of what they do. It's just hard. I always believe that it's hard for somebody from the outside to come up with those ideas. I think if Anthony had asked a consultant, like, well, what should I do it? It's unlikely the consultant would have come up with the cab driver ploy. So I think in the early stages, you're the best.
You're the best hacker.
Yeah, you and your team are truly the best. Now, what you can do is, let's say you're in your online retail or something, and you then can hire some growth hackers who have experience in online retail, and they probably do have some tips and tricks that are worth paying for. Like they'll say, do these 8 things, you're not doing them yet, they'll help you. I would be very nervous about a consultant that claims they're a, quote, growth hacker.
So Talinda should just try a lot of different things to get her business moving to the next stage, and whichever one works, go with that.
And I'd spend my time talking to other entrepreneurs, not an outside consultant.
Hope we answered your question, Talinda. If you've got questions for John Greathouse joining us here every week on Cowork Radio, it's askjohn@coworkradio.com. You can also go to our website at coworkradio.com, and we'll see you next week.
All right, I'll be here.
Stop. Thank you, John. After the break, Christian Johann Smith is here, co-founder of Trackr, and Dr. Luke Moss from Kai Bay. You're listening to Cowork Radio. Please follow us on social media and download episodes on iTunes, coworkradio.com. We will be right back.